It just doesn't get old. I wonder what happens.
Mayfield in the middle.
DB!
It's Derrick Barnes.
Yeah, it's still good. It never gets old. He made a great play on that ball, too. And kind of just capped off his season, you know. Just really capped it off. But what a great celebration. What a great time. It was a good night for everybody. The injuries are starting to stack up at Lions training camp, but there's still a ton of reason for optimism. The next man up mentality will be challenged this week, but the Lions have the right players to move forward with. Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Johnny Gaz. Thank you for returning for another video. Today we're going to look at the news and updates coming out of Lions training camp here so far in week 4. Then we're going to get back to our player profiles and do a deep dive into Lions linebacker Derrick Barnes. Let's go. Before we talk about my man DB, make sure to hit the like button on the video if you dig the vibe here at Johnny Gaz Sports. We're going for 100 likes on today's video. We have the subscription button and notify bell there to make sure you don't miss any future videos on the channel, and it's the best free way to help me out. We have a membership option now available. If you hit the join button on any one of my videos, I'll walk you through how to become a part of the family. I have so much fun stuff planned and exclusive content for members only as we get closer and closer to the NFL season. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Let's dive into today's topics. Let's start with the news and updates coming out of Lions training camp week 4 so far. Starting back up Sunday, August 11th, coming off of the preseason game on Thursday the 8th, the loss to the Giants. They resumed practice on Sunday. Jameson Williams unfortunately had a tough day, several drops at practice on Sunday the 11th. He did make up for it for a long TD bomb towards the end of practice, but hopefully this will just be a one-off thing for him. Going back to the Jake Bates watch, he nailed a 64-yard field goal in the practice session on Sunday, which apparently had much room to spare, and had a perfect day, 3 for 3 on field goals, 2 for 2 extra points, riding that positive momentum from the preseason field goal, the 53-yarder that he hit in the elements, having another good day there on Sunday the 11th. Taylor Decker, Kevin Zeitler, Sam Laporta, James Houston, Darius Fountain, Levi Onwuzurike, all dealing with minor injuries and worked off to the side of practice on Sunday the 11th. There was no Malcolm Rodriguez at practice. He was away with an unknown injury at this time. We know Hendon Hooker, coming off the concussion from the Giants preseason game, is currently under protocol, and we're waiting to hear a time frame on him. I will keep you posted. Guys like Brandon Joseph continue to ride the positive momentum coming off the preseason game. He had another interception, and Isaac Ukwu, the defensive end, continued his positive play with more quarterback pressures and an additional sack at training camp on day 12. Moving into day 13, August 12th, Monday, that was the Lions' first night practice. They started practice at 6 p.m. at the Meyer Performance Center that evening. Dan Campbell came out and said that's really just to simulate the ups and downs and different time frames of the NFL regular season. Carlton Davis, Kevin Zeitler, Aleem McNeil, Sam Laporta, James Houston, all no practice on Monday, August 12th. We had some unfortunate injuries to report that day. Both rookie draft picks, Terrion Arnold, who left practice with an upper body injury designation, and Enos Rakestraw also left practice with an ankle injury. Both of those guys, we're still waiting to hear on the severity of those injuries and what those timeframes will be. I think the worst news coming out of training camp from Monday, August 12th, was this apparent injury with Jahmyr Gibbs, which initially reported by Adam Schefter as a leg injury, and it was very vague on the initial report, so it was very concerning. Come to find out, he did leave practice with a hamstring injury. Does not appear to be super major, but we know Jahmyr Gibbs in the past has suffered with some leg and hamstring injuries, and those tend to linger on. So again, we're still waiting to hear what the injury designations truly are and how long these guys will be out. Dan Campbell is not set to speak to the press again until this Saturday, just prior to the preseason game against the Chiefs. So we'll see if we're able to get updated news here throughout the rest of the week, and I will keep you updated here on the channel. Gibbs was working with both the running backs and wide receivers prior to that injury in practice on Monday the 12th. Very interesting to note that there, knowing we're having to make up for the lost receptions that Josh Reynolds is leaving the Lions, and we know they've had difficulty really solidifying who this wide receiver 3 will be. People thinking that Jahmyr Gibbs can kind of step into that role. Well, maybe he's being overworked a bit and certainly overextended the hamstring. Again, we'll kind of wait to hear more on that. Brandon Joseph continuing his excellent play in training camp, coming off of the preseason game against the Giants, had an additional interception. So that's 3 interceptions in 3 consecutive practice or game days in a row. And now with the mounting injuries in the secondary, a guy like Brandon Joseph may become more and more valuable. So he's certainly stepping up. The Lions signed an additional quarterback ahead of Monday's practice, former Georgia quarterback Jake Fromm. Obviously bringing him in because of the Hendon Hooker injury, knowing they had some issues with Nate Sudfeld. They really need an emergency quarterback. They cannot ride Nate Sudfeld through an entire preseason game. So my thought here is that Jake Fromm ultimately will be the emergency quarterback and will see some significant time there, probably into the second half of that game against the Chiefs. The Lions also released on an injury designation wide receiver Antoine Green. He suffered a concussion trying to throw a block there late in the first half of that preseason game. We'll see if he ends up back with the Lions, but ultimately he will be out for the season with that injury designation. The Lions also released offensive lineman Ike Boettger, who they had signed previous in training camp, and they signed linebacker Ty Summers, who had previously been with Green Bay and Jacksonville, sort of in a special teams role. Again, I see that as more of a camp body, making sure that they have enough roster pieces to be able to go into the rest of this week of training camp and into the preseason game with the Kansas City Chiefs. There have been a lot of moving parts to the Lions defense over the past several seasons, revamping the secondary multiple times over, and really trying to find the help for Hutch. The linebacking crew has actually been pretty steady. They've hit on several pieces over the last several seasons. We know what they flashed out of Malcolm Rodriguez. They drafted Jack Campbell in the first round last year. Well, one of the more unsung heroes from that culture-changing 2021 NFL draft has slowly worked himself into becoming one of the better players on their defense. So much so that he could turn himself into one of the breakout stars for the Lions in 2024. I'm talking about linebacker Derrick Barnes. Derrick Barnes was born May 29th, 1999, and is originally from Covington, Kentucky. He would tell you himself that he grew up in tough surroundings, so he spent a majority of his young life hanging out at the Boys and Girls Club. There, he was mentored by former NFL star and Walter Payton Man of the Year from 2021, Andrew Whitworth. Derrick Barnes attended high school in Covington, Kentucky at Holy Cross. He played basketball, ran track, and of course was a football player. As a football player, he played both linebacker and running back. As a senior, he averaged 10.5 yards per rush, and as a linebacker, led his team in tackles with over 126. In 2016, he was named to the All-State team and was a Class 2A D6 Player of the Year in the state of Kentucky. He originally committed to go to Toledo University, but ended up attending Purdue University because he fell in love with the coach and the recruiting that he had from that school. In 2017, as a freshman, he started out as a linebacker, started 2 games, played in 12, ended up with 16 tackles, but played more in a special teams role. The following season, he moved to a defensive end position and really started to take off. There he played in 13 games, had 12 starts, 92 tackles that year, which ranked 3rd on the team. In 2019, still playing at defensive end, he started all 12 games, totaling 63 tackles, which was 2nd on the team, had 11 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, which led the team. In 2020, which of course was the shortened COVID year, they moved him back to a middle linebacker position there at Purdue, where he played in 6 games, had 54 tackles, which was 1st on the team, and was named to the 2nd team All Big Ten. The Lions drafted Derrick Barnes in the 4th round, 113th overall in that 2021 draft, which we have beat up, that culture-changing draft for the Lions. They actually traded back up into the 4th round to get Derrick Barnes. They took him the pick just behind Amon-Ra St. Brown at pick 112, and we all know how that one worked out. Derrick Barnes, coming out of college, looked like an elite athlete. He was powerful, he had good agility, and he had good downhill speed. He came into the Lions with a mindset that he was going to start from the get-go, but unfortunately his career got off to a really rough start, especially in his first 2 seasons. In his rookie year, and he himself would tell you this, he just did not play up to his standard. He actually ranked 92 out of the 94 qualifying linebackers according to PFF. The following season, he was beat out at his position by 6th-round pick Malcolm Rodriguez. So he really had to search his soul and figure out what he had to do to take the next step. And that was changing his mentality, relying on his faith, and his work ethic. So he emerged in 2023, coming in, moving over really to the Mike linebacker. And the Lions themselves turned themselves into one of the best run defenses in the league. And that has a lot to do with Derrick Barnes becoming more involved. And he credits that to defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, as well as the linebacking coach Kelvin Shepard. They were able to find him and get him into the right position, moving Alex Anzalone more into the will linebacker position where he truly thrived with the green dot, still in control of everything, but allowed Derrick Barnes to play the Mike, and then Jack Campbell, the rookie last year, being able to sort of switch between the Mike and the Sam. So really they're kind of finding ways to use those guys interchangeably in the right ways, which ultimately helped the Lions defense towards the end of 2023. We know that Derrick Barnes ended the year on a high note, sealing the divisional round playoff game with that awesome interception, which we let in on. But he did have an unfortunate injury in the NFC Championship game, and we know the Lions lost that particular game and really has now carried them into the offseason. Derrick Barnes has started off training camp real hot. He has been one of the standouts of the 2024 Detroit Lions training camp so far. Again, changing his mentality, sort of playing with that dog inside of him. He's come out and said that he's not going to be pushed around anymore. He's not Mr. Nice Guy. That's not going to get him anywhere. And he's gotten himself into several scrums throughout the beginning of training camp. Nothing serious, nothing over the top, but just showing that he is putting these words and thoughts into action. And if his trajectory plays out the way it has to this point, I see only good things happening for Derrick Barnes in 2024. Statistically last year, he finished with 81 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and had 19 quarterback pressures. The Lions in general were very pressure heavy, and they started to use Derrick Barnes again in that more athletic linebacker role. And I'm very excited about how, again, with another year under his belt, with Jack Campbell with another year under his belt, we know what Alex Anzalone has been able to give. That position group should be a true strength for the Lions defense in 2024, and I'm very excited for it. So that's going to do it for today's video, guys. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think about all these injuries. What are the Lions going to do to make up for the loss of Terrion Arnold, Enos Rakestraw coming up in this preseason game? How long will Jahmyr Gibbs be out with his hamstring injury? As I hear more and get news updates, I will keep you updated, so come back and see me here on the channel. If you dig the vibe here at Johnny Gas Sports, make sure to hit that like button. The subscription button and notify bell are the best ways to make sure you stay involved and don't miss any future videos here on the channel, and it's the best free way to help me out. I appreciate you guys so much. Talking Lions football back and forth is so much fun, and I can't wait to get into this regular season. There is a membership option available. If you hit the join button on any one of my videos, I'll walk you through all the options you have to become a part of the family. More than anything else, make sure to take care of yourself, your mental health. That is more important than anything, and I want to make sure you come back and see me on future videos. Thank you guys so much for your time. Have an excellent day.